Alexander the Great burned its greatest palace. Rome spent centuries trying to defeat it. Arab armies destroyed its last empire, yet none of them erased Persia. Because Persia was never just an empire. It was a civilization that learned how to survive every conquest, rebuild after every collapse, and shape the world long after its kings had disappeared. Its story begins on the vast Iranian plateau, a land surrounded by mountains, deserts, and ancient trade routes linking east and west. For centuries, the Persians were only one of many peoples living there, overshadowed by mighty neighbors like Assyria and Babylon. No one could have imagined that this small kingdom would soon rule the largest empire the world had ever seen. Everything changed around 550 BC, with the rise of a young ruler named Cyrus. Unlike most conquerors, Cyrus understood that fear alone could never hold an empire together. After defeating the Median king, he united the Medes and Persians instead of destroying one in favor of the other. It was a decision that revealed a new way of thinking. Every victory strengthened the empire instead of leaving behind endless enemies. His armies soon swept across Lydia in Anatolia, capturing immense wealth and controlling the gateway between Asia and the Mediterranean. But Cyrus was aiming for a far greater prize: Babylon. For generations, Babylon had been the political and cultural heart of Mesopotamia. Its enormous walls and magnificent temples symbolized power itself. Yet in 539 BC, the city fell to Cyrus with surprisingly little destruction. Instead of presenting himself as a foreign conqueror, he respected local traditions, restored temples, and allowed displaced peoples to return to their homelands. Loyalty mattered more than forcing every nation to become Persian. That policy brought stability to lands that had been conquered by countless armies before him. When Cyrus died, his empire stretched from Central Asia to the Mediterranean Sea. Never before had a single ruler governed so many different cultures. But conquering the world was one challenge. Governing it was another. That responsibility fell to Darius I. After securing the throne during a period of rebellion, Darius transformed Persia from a collection of conquered lands into the most organized empire the ancient world had ever known. He divided the empire into provinces governed by satraps, officials responsible for collecting taxes, enforcing royal law, and maintaining order. To prevent corruption, inspectors known as the king's eyes and ears traveled constantly across the empire, reporting directly to the throne. Darius also understood that an empire could only survive if information moved as quickly as armies. He expanded the Royal Road, a network stretching thousands of kilometers across Asia. Relay stations with fresh horses allowed royal messengers to carry orders with remarkable speed, connecting distant provinces that once seemed impossible to govern from a single capital. Trade flourished along these routes. Gold from Anatolia, cedar from Lebanon, spices from India, horses from Central Asia, and precious stones from the East flowed through Persian territory. More than an empire of conquest, Persia became the commercial crossroads of the ancient world. To celebrate its power, Darius ordered the construction of Persepolis. Unlike Babylon or Susa, Persepolis was not built as a center of everyday government. It was designed to impress. Towering columns rose above enormous ceremonial halls, while stone reliefs depicted representatives from every corner of the empire bringing gifts to the great king. Egyptians, Babylonians, Medes, Indians, Lydians, and dozens of other peoples appeared together, each wearing their own clothing and preserving their own identity. The message was unmistakable. Persia ruled not because every nation became the same, but because many nations accepted the authority of one king. For decades, this system created unprecedented stability across 3 continents. Yet every expanding empire eventually encounters resistance. Across the Aegean Sea, the independent Greek city-states watched Persia's growing influence with increasing concern. When several Greek cities living under Persian rule revolted, Athens chose to support them. To Darius, this was no local uprising. It was a direct challenge to imperial authority. In 490 BC, Persian armies crossed the Aegean and landed near the small town of Marathon. The Athenians achieved a stunning victory, one that later became a symbol of Greek independence. But from the Persian perspective, Marathon was not the end of the conflict. It was only the first battle in a much larger struggle. 10 years later, Darius' son, Xerxes I, prepared one of the greatest military expeditions the ancient world had ever witnessed. Soldiers from every corner of the empire assembled beneath Persian banners, while engineers bridged the Hellespont and opened the road toward Greece. As this enormous army advanced across Europe, both civilizations moved toward a confrontation that would define the ancient world. At Thermopylae, a small Greek force led by King Leonidas delayed the Persian advance before being overwhelmed. The road into Greece lay open. Athens was abandoned, and soon its temples burned beneath Persian occupation. It seemed that Xerxes had accomplished what his father never could. But victory slipped away at sea. In the narrow waters of Salamis, the larger Persian fleet lost the advantage of its numbers. The Greek ships turned the confined straits into a deadly trap, forcing Xerxes to retreat with much of his army. 1 year later, the Persians suffered another defeat at Plataea, ending their campaign to conquer mainland Greece. For centuries, these battles would be celebrated as the triumph of Greece over Persia. Yet the reality was far more complex. The Persian Empire did not collapse. It remained the greatest power in the Near East for another 150 years, governing millions of people, while Greek city-states continued fighting among themselves. Persia had lost a campaign, not its empire. Its greatest threat would come from somewhere entirely unexpected. In 334 BC, a young Macedonian king crossed the Hellespont with an army far smaller than Persia's. His name was Alexander. One by one, the armies of Darius III were defeated at Granicus, Issus, and finally Gaugamela. The road to the heart of the empire lay open. Babylon surrendered. Susa fell. Then, Alexander entered Persepolis. The magnificent ceremonial capital built by Darius became the symbol of Persia's defeat. Its royal palaces were consumed by fire. Whether as an act of revenge, celebration, or political theater remains debated to this day. The flames that illuminated Persepolis appeared to mark the end of the greatest empire the world had ever known. But Persia refused to disappear. Alexander soon discovered that conquering the empire was easier than governing it. He adopted elements of Persian royal ceremony, wore Persian clothing on formal occasions, and relied on Persian nobles to administer vast territories. Even the man who destroyed the Achaemenid Empire found himself ruling, in many ways, like a Persian king. When Alexander died in 323 BC, his empire fragmented almost immediately. His generals fought each other for control, and Persia passed into the hands of the Seleucid dynasty. Greek culture spread across the region, new cities were founded, and Hellenistic traditions mixed with older Persian customs. Yet beneath this foreign rule, Persian identity endured. From the northeastern frontier emerged a new Iranian power, the Parthians. Expert horsemen and brilliant cavalry commanders, they gradually pushed westward, reclaiming Iran and eventually Mesopotamia. Once again, a Persian empire stood at the center of the ancient world. This new empire was different from that of Cyrus and Darius. Instead of relying on a highly centralized government, Parthian kings shared authority with powerful noble families. But one thing had not changed. Persia still stood between east and west. Its greatest rival was now Rome. For nearly 3 centuries, the two superpowers fought for control of Mesopotamia and the lands surrounding the Euphrates River. Neither could permanently destroy the other. In 53 BC, the Roman general Crassus invaded Parthian territory, expecting an easy victory. Instead, near the city of Carrhae, Roman legions faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Mounted archers surrounded them, showering arrows from every direction, while heavily armored cavalry shattered exhausted formations. The Roman army collapsed. Crassus was killed, thousands of legionaries died, and thousands more were taken prisoner. It was one of the greatest military disasters in Roman history, and proved that Persia remained a force capable of stopping even Rome. But history was preparing another transformation. In the 3rd century AD, a new Persian dynasty overthrew the Parthians. The Sassanians claimed they were restoring the true legacy of the ancient kings. Their rulers centralized power, strengthened the army, promoted Zoroastrianism as the empire's principal religion, and rebuilt Persia into one of the most powerful states on earth. Under Shapur I, Persian armies achieved one of their greatest victories. In AD 260, they captured the Roman Emperor Valerian alive after the Battle of Edessa, the only Roman emperor ever taken prisoner by a foreign enemy. Across Persia, monumental rock carvings immortalized the moment, proclaiming to the world that the King of Kings stood above Rome itself. For the next 4 centuries, the Persian and Roman worlds remained locked in an endless rivalry. Sometimes they traded, sometimes they negotiated. More often, they fought. Their frontier became one of the most contested borders in history. Under Khosrow I and later Khosrow II, the Sassanian Empire reached a final golden age. Its cities prospered, trade connected China with the Mediterranean through Persian lands, magnificent palaces rose once again, and Persian art, science, and administration influenced civilizations far beyond its borders. For a brief moment, it seemed that Persia had fully regained the glory of the age of Cyrus. But endless wars against the Byzantine Empire exhausted both civilizations. Armies marched year after year, treasuries emptied, plague spread across the region. Internal struggles weakened the throne, just as a new force emerged from the Arabian Peninsula. United by Islam, Arab armies advanced into Persian territory. Victory followed victory. The decisive defeats at Al-Qadisiyah and Nahavand shattered organized Sassanian resistance. In AD 651, the last king of kings, Yazdegerd III, was killed while fleeing east. The Persian Empire had fallen for the last time. Yet, once again, Persia survived. Its language endured. Its scholars preserved and expanded ancient knowledge. Its poets, architects, administrators, and philosophers shaped the Islamic world, influenced Central Asia, inspired the Mughal Empire in India, and even left their mark on the Ottoman and Byzantine worlds. The kings were gone. The empire was gone. But the civilization remained, because the true legacy of ancient Persia was never measured by the lands it conquered. It was measured by its extraordinary ability to outlive every empire that tried to erase it.